Hello and welcome everyone to the National Black MBA Association's Wednesdays webinar series. Thank you for joining us. Before we get started, I'd like to take a moment to acquaint you with a few features of this web event technology. At any time, you may adjust your audio using computer volume settings. On the right-hand side of your screen, you'll see the Q&A window. To submit a question, type your question in the small text box at the bottom. When finished, click the send button. You may do this at any time during the program. All questions that you submit are only seen by today's presenters. Questions will be responded to in the order in which they are received and will be addressed at the end of the presentation. However, please note that due to time constraints, our speakers may not respond to all questions submitted. At this time, I'd like to introduce our speakers, Ty Heath and Jacqueline Jones. Ty Heath is the president of LinkedIn's Black Inclusion Group, or BIG. Clients benefit from Ty's experience at Google Incorporated, where she managed Google AdWords advertiser campaigns and delivered marketing product education to thousands of Google employees, partner agencies, and resellers. She also currently serves as lead faculty advisor for digital marketing and social media at Bay Path University. With an MBA in Marketing and Management from Emory University's Goizueta Business School and an International Economics degree from Georgetown University, Ty also was a contributing author in the recently published book, The Professional Black Woman, and full author of Marketers of Tomorrow, a step-by-step toolkit for inbound marketing. Ty was a two-time Olympic trials qualifier in track and field for the 800 meters in 2004 and 2008 and loves reading science fiction, having brunch, and writing. Jacqueline Jones is Program Manager, GSO, and Strategic Partnership Lead for Global Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at LinkedIn. As a Program Manager, Jacqueline is responsible for the LinkedIn Engagement and Development Program, or LEAD. The purpose of the LEAD program is to improve the recruitment, engagement, and growth of Black and Latino professionals within the global sales organization, which consists of approximately 5,000 people. She is also the Strategic Partnerships Lead for the Global DIBS, Diversity, Inclusion, and Belonging at LinkedIn. She has held business, development, and strategy roles across several industries such as education, media and entertainment, technology, advertising, publishing, and consulting. Prior to LinkedIn, she was Executive Director of Strategic Partnerships and Innovation at Kaplan University, where she led the development of new content and products, which focused on enhancing career and educational skills. Her experience includes executive roles at Fortune 500 companies, including Clear Channel Communications, Kaplan, Accenture, Prudential, and IBM. Jacqueline is a former Fulbright scholar. She holds an MBA from Harvard Business School and a BA from Wellesley College. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to Jacqueline to get us started. Jacqueline?
Thank you so much, Gary, for that wonderful introduction. And everyone, welcome to the call. It's such a pleasure to be here for this very important conversation on building your professional brand on LinkedIn. So the reason I said it's pretty important is as we were preparing this, we realized that 92% of all recruiters check some form of social media before hiring. And on LinkedIn, the stats are approximately 3 million jobs per month are published on the platform. So with those two, short stats, I also want to share another stat that we came across in a Pew study published in 2015, which said only 28% of Blacks and 18% of Latinos are on the network. And as we move forward, what's happening is information about industries are so critical right now, and having a professional digital brand is so critical that we really wanted to partner with the National Black MBA to make sure that our members are up to speed on the latest trends and how to brand themselves online. So I really want to compliment Jesse Tyson, president of Black MBA, as well as Troy Evans, who leads strategic partnerships, for having the vision and also being such great partners and bringing this information to us. So let's get started. So we went through our brief introductions of who we are. And Ty, do you want to just say a couple words just to get us started so we hear from you? I want to introduce Ty Heath, who's here with me as well.
Thanks, Jackie. Yeah, everyone, Ty Heath here. So in my role at LinkedIn, I focus on product education for our customers, scaling that globally. And, as mentioned, I'm the president of our Black Inclusion Group. I'm really passionate about marketing. I'm passionate about everyone building their online presence and their brand and getting and realizing the opportunity that can come from that. And also, I'm really passionate about social justice. And so those are two of the things that I share on through my LinkedIn profile, and look forward to sharing with you how you can do the same for things that you're passionate about.
Yes, and as the lead for strategic partnerships, my role is really bringing the power of LinkedIn to diverse groups around the world. So I'm literally in my dream job and
nice.
getting to do this as well and be here with you today. And I'm also program manager of a program called LEAD, which is around the development of Black and Latino talent at LinkedIn. So let's just jump in, give you some information about the LinkedIn network. So it's the largest professional network. We have over 500 million members across the globe. And unbelievable as it is, we add two new members per second. There are also over 20,000 companies that use the LinkedIn network to recruit. And
Gary, could you advance the slide for us, please?
And over 3 million jobs posted on LinkedIn every month. What people don't know, there are over 3 billion professional searches that actually happen on LinkedIn as well. So our mission and vision is to connect the world's professionals to make them more productive and successful. And the vision of LinkedIn is to create economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. So as you can see, it ties very closely to making sure that everyone has an opportunity at jobs as well as economic opportunity around the world. So this presentation, it's really around building a holistic way of creating your presence and also realizing your potential, professional potential on LinkedIn. So it's not only about establishing your profile, but it's also around creating thought leadership in terms of building your voice. It's around building a professional network and also learning. Always making sure that you're keeping and creating job skills. So as we go into this, I really want to turn it over to Ty, who's going to talk more about building your professional presence on LinkedIn via your profile.
Awesome. Thanks, Jackie. So, LinkedIn started out as a jobs platform, but now it's really much more than that. It's a content engine, and we're going to go through how you get started by setting up an amazing LinkedIn presence. So first, why is this important? Before I even dive into that, I want to actually get you thinking about something important. And the question I have is this: when is the last time you Googled your name? More often than not, when you Google your name, your LinkedIn profile is going to be one of the top search results. And so whether or not you've done that recently and whether or not you're actually showing up there, there's an opportunity for you to invest. I don't know about you, but before many meetings, I'm Googling people's names to learn more about them, to see what we have in common. And I want to make sure that my name shows up for people that may be searching for me, so I can manage the narrative and tell the story about why they should connect with me, and they can get a sense of, what types of things I'm interested in. So this is a real amazing way to build your online presence and really establish your relationship with people before they even start speaking with you. So all of this positions you for success as you shape your career identity. Of course, that can yield better opportunities. I've gotten speaking engagements, of course, job opportunities and other things through LinkedIn, and we'll talk more about thought leadership and how you really build on that. It's also a way for you to identify your niche. So the job market is constantly changing. The industries are constantly evolving, and you want to make sure you stay connected to that. And then beyond that, it's an opportunity for you to uplift yourself and your colleagues. So when you recommend others, when you connect others, this is how you build and scale opportunity. And for those of you who are wondering, this presentation, we will make sure that we share opportunities for you to learn more and get connected to what we're sharing today. Okay, so let's move on from there. First things first, when you build your LinkedIn profile, you want to add a photo. Members who add a photo get up to 9 times more connection requests, 21 times more profile views, and 36 times more messages. So this is really the gateway. Images really draw the eye, and I recommend in this case that you actually have a professional picture taken. In lieu of that, you could have a friend take a picture against a nice background, but you want to make sure that the picture really speaks to who you are. So for example, if you're a ballerina like Misty Copeland, you might have a picture that's an expression of who you are there. And of course, that would be different than if you work in the financial services sector as a banker, right? So you want to have a professional expression of who you are with that photo. And you'll notice that there's also that background that's customizable. So you want to think about how that connects to your brand.
Yeah, the key here is really to make your profile professional and approachable. As you can see on this slide, there are several different styles. One, there's somebody standing full, there's a full shot, and another is the standard headshot. But they're both very elegantly presented, and that's really the key.
Absolutely. The other thing that I think people do here that it would be helpful for everyone to understand is when you look at the job title, for example, executive board member, strategist, author, that tells more of a story of who that person is, who Maria is, than maybe just her job title. So you want to think about how do you describe what it is you actually do and how you want people to connect with you. So there's a real opportunity there than just using a basic job title. Okay. All right. So moving on, you want to make sure you add your industry. More than 300,000 people search by industry on LinkedIn every week, and so this is an opportunity for you to be found. In fact, if you put your industry, you have an opportunity to get 9 times more profile views than those that don't include industry information. So you want to think about that and make sure that you're actually completing the industry information. Next, you want to add a compelling summary. So I've gotten the question here, what types of things should I be including? So consider your summary to be an executive summary to who you are. What you want to include here are your career accomplishments, aspirations, and strengths, and you want to use 40 words or more. So think about here telling the story of who you are, what you stand for, what's important to you, and highlighting those key career accomplishments. And then actually, one of the things we want to point out here is that this is where you can start to use things like the STAR format to make sure that people are getting a sense of the situation, task, action, and result. And you can use this throughout building your LinkedIn profile to make sure that you're including those key results that you've delivered.
So this is a demonstration in terms of, a friend of mine, Lisa Stone. She's a CMO of a startup at the moment, and she does a really good job of quantifying quantifying her accomplishments in the summary. The size of the community she managed, the budget, the revenue that she brought in. I can't stress this more to really add flavor to the size of your accomplishments. Also using those keywords that recruiters tend to use first. So knowing the keywords in your industry and knowing what skills are in demand, and actually if you have them, putting them in your summary is absolutely key. And then I want to stress again the STAR format that Ty emphasized.
Great. All right. So as a next step, you want to detail your work experience. So members with up-to-date positions receive up to 5 times more connection requests, 8 times more profile views, and 10 times more messages. So this is really an area to invest. So again, that STAR format is going to come in handy where you describe what your accomplishments are. Be sure to speak to what you're responsible for, But one thing that people tend to underutilize both here and in the summary section is including things that tell more of a story of who you are. So, for example, you may have a video where you spoke at a conference. Maybe you wrote an ebook. Maybe you have a blog. So you can absolutely incorporate media both in the summary section and throughout your job experience area. This really tends to draw the eye, and it adds that actual sight, sound, and motion that gives people a better sense of who you are and tells the story beyond the text. So you want to think about what assets you might have that you can include to enhance each of the different jobs that you want to list out in your experience area. Okay. So I spoke to this a little bit, but again, adding examples of your work, uploading photos, presentations, and videos, and this gives that dynamic, visually appealing representation of your professional story. So for example, what I like to include here are quick videos of me speaking about different topics. As I mentioned before in the introduction, I'm a marketer. So I like to talk about inbound marketing and educate people about what that is and how do you get started successfully. What that does is add credibility to who I am, and oftentimes that can make the difference in terms of having people work with you. So again, it's beyond the text and really showcasing your expertise to really help build your credibility. So we all have skills. I know we know this, right? So the next key step here is to add skills and get endorsed. So many of you who already have a LinkedIn profile have probably seen this. And maybe you don't realize this, but you can actually add skills that you want to be endorsed for. To get started, we recommend that you add at least 5 skills, and these can be both soft and technical skills. So earlier, Jackie referenced keywords that may be popular in your industry. You want to be thinking about what are the different areas of expertise that you want to show up for and that people will endorse you for. So I'll come up with 5 of them, and that kind of starts the engine with people endorsing you. Of course, you can do more than 5. All of us are multi-talented and have many skills, and of course, you want to make sure that you're getting recognized for all of them. Okay, so if you do list skills, you can be 27 times more likely to be found by recruiters via search than members with less than 5 skills. So again, just a plug for you, thinking again about what are those keywords you want to be found for, what are those things that you've been recognized for so that you can shine and get the exposure that you're wanting to get here. Okay, so what we just covered was level 1 LinkedIn profile building. Those are the key steps. And LinkedIn is gamified, by the way. In your profile, you can check back to see if you've reached all-star status in terms of the basics of setting up your profile. If you want to go above and beyond, you really also want to think about thought leadership. Thought leadership, for those of you who maybe are not as familiar, is about sharing your insights and your expertise on important industry conversations or unique passions that you have. So again, this is an area where I like to share about inbound marketing. I like to share about social justice, how you can become a better ally to different communities. These are things that I like to write about. Let's talk about how you can get started on this. So as we go into this, start thinking about those things that you're passionate about or you're an expert in that you want to get out into the world. So the reason why this is so important is because it allows you to establish your expertise and reinforces your value. It also signals to your colleagues in your network what you're working on and invites collaboration and collective learning with others. It also shows that you're knowledgeable about industry trends and keeps you visible. So this is important. So it's a really competitive job market, and I want you to imagine a world, and it's not just about jobs, by the way, it's about other opportunities that you can get. So this is about standing out, and imagine what's possible if by showcasing your expertise, people are reaching out to you to connect with you and to ask you for opportunities rather than you having to go to them.
Yeah, it's a really great way of actually also building a community. So by essentially signaling to the rest of your community or people out there what you're working on, you'll actually attract like-minded people. So if you're interested in cloud computing, or you're interested in social justice, or you're interested in career, building and creating new careers, you'll actually create communities of people who gravitate to what you're talking about. So it's a great way of taking your profile and building your voice to a whole different level.
Yeah, absolutely. Actually, now that you mentioned that, Jackie, one thing that I think is helpful for folks, some of you might be interested in switching to a different industry, but you're not sure how to get started in building up your expertise and showcasing that you can transfer your talent into a different space. Writing about it, sharing it on LinkedIn is one way for you to begin that transition, and so you can start to show up as an expert in that new space that you want to move into as well.
That's a great idea.
Okay, so what should you write about? So there are a lot of different things you can cover. So first and foremost, timely topics. So of course, there's a lot happening in the world. We need to generate solutions to what we're dealing with, both in the professional space, social space, world space. So adding your voice to conversations on timely topics is one way for you to showcase your expertise and also provide solutions to challenges that professionals are searching for on LinkedIn. Also, chiming in on breaking news is a way to really be rewarded. Because breaking news is really in that moment, a lot of times people are searching for answers and searching for information. So writing about breaking news, or I like to also call this newsjacking, can be can be well rewarded in terms of visibility because you're right there when people are searching for answers on that topic. And then, of course, trends. So thought leadership is also about helping people understand and navigate the ambiguity in their environment. So if you can talk about what the future looks like in your space or for a particular topic, that's another way to show up as an expert. And then finally, you really want to think about what are those things that you really know that you have perspective on, and provide your unique insight into dissecting that. So here's where you want to kind of think about, instead of saying me too, and chiming in on maybe what somebody else is talking about, what's that unique angle that you have to bring to that subject that only you can bring?
Yeah, that's. Thank you for those points. Another thing, Ty, which I've done in the past, is actually just taking some time to write a bank of stories, meaning that every week I set some time aside just to write about things that I'm interested in, and you actually put them to the side, and you can actually bring them out when a nice news story happens that you can link it to, right? Inevitably, it comes around that there's something that you can link it to.
Right.
And then you have a perfect example of what you're talking about, and it's something that's timely and will get more lift out in the community. So that's another thing you can also do as well. That's actually a really good schedule of writing and body of writing.
Do you actually schedule time to write?
I do.
You do? I think that's another good tip too, because we're already absorbing a lot of the news that's happening in the world, and if you have a perspective, maybe it doesn't have to be every single day, but it's time thinking about what's that unique angle you have, and sometimes actually scheduling yourself to think about it and write can really build that muscle of sharing your unique insights and perspective. Okay. All right, so here's an example. So both Jackie and I do write, and inside of LinkedIn, in case you didn't know, there's actually a blog engine. So there's a publishing platform within LinkedIn. So not only can you share short-form social media posts through LinkedIn, you can actually write long-form blog posts. So I spoke at a conference earlier this year on this exact topic, and afterward I wrote a blog post, How to Rock Your LinkedIn Profile and Build Your Personal Brand. If you connect with us on LinkedIn, you'll see these posts. Feel free to do that.
Yep.
And then actually feel free to check out that long-form blog post I wrote for more information on rocking out your LinkedIn profile. And then, Jackie, do you want to share about the article that you wrote as well?
Yeah, we partnered with the ENY to do an event about how do you create your path as a Black executive. Did really well. And this is a perfect example of an article which I had for basically months and took some time to put it together. And then an event came along that actually aligned with that post. And then I was able to interview people and actually insert that within the article. And it was great because I shared it with my network, but also EY picked it up as well. It was picked up on, our internal technology channel as well. So that just shows you, you could actually plan your writing for over the next year, for instance. I mean, think about it. For 2018, if you can sit down and think, okay, who do I want to create myself to be next year? And actually set out in terms of writing articles and doing research along that and actually planning your own editorial calendar.
That's awesome. Yeah.
So that's another way to think about actually, really intentionally creating your thought leadership over the next few months.
Yeah, that's great. I really like that, and I'm guessing maybe we'll see some of you at the National Black MBA Conference. Perhaps there are topics that you'll learn about there that you might find yourself writing about on LinkedIn's publishing platform.
Oh, yes.
So there's an opportunity for everyone to get started. I probably will be writing about that. So absolutely see you there. Okay, so asking yourself a few questions can help you make sure that your content is compelling. And so you'll want to think about, first and foremost, why am I writing this right now? Because, of course, you want to make sure that it's useful and that you're adding that knowledge, insight, and expertise that no one else can. Do you have an opinion about something? And you don't want to just be stating your opinion and not backing it up. You can link outside of LinkedIn to articles and other information to support your viewpoint, as well as adding statistics and other things to really help bring light to what you're talking about. Also, give other people some shine too. Maybe somebody else wrote a post that's connected to yours, and so you should really think about, is there some things everyone else is talking about, and perhaps link to other people's articles and really give them some shine too.
That's a way, I'm glad you brought that up, Ty, because that's a way you can actually get into another industry. If you're interested in another industry and you want to make that segue, you start clicking on articles within that industry and actually pulling out quotes and sharing it with other people. So then you actually link with other people in that industry that you want to get into. I transitioned to tech, in fact, a year and a half ago after 12 years in higher education. So the way I started doing it was actually learning more about the industry and actually reading more about it, sharing articles, getting into groups, getting into discussion. So what Ty is telling you is actually really, really good advice.
Awesome. All right. So now we're going to do some best practices here as you get started. So the first rule of thumb to ask yourself is, would I click on that, right? A lot of times the title you choose can be really key to having people actually answer the question for themselves, is this something I really want to read? So you want to spend some time optimizing for that. And don't forget a photo. A photo draws the eye. And that's really something that you don't want to leave out, because it will also pick up as well as people share in the news feed. And then adding rich media. So maybe you have video. You can embed video from YouTube, for example, into your long-form posts, and this adds a richness to it as well. So some best practices there for enhancing your thought leadership content. Okay, so to get started, and I see that some of you have a question about how do you actually find this blog engine that we're talking about, within the LinkedIn newsfeed, all you have to do is go to the top of the newsfeed where it says share an article, photo, or update. And then you would either share an article by inserting a link and starting to type some content, or if you want to write a long-form article, you would click Write an Article. So there's a lot of different options for posting, and you can find these all just by going to the top of your news feed and choosing what direction you want to go in. Okay. So in terms of building a powerful network, this is so key. This is why one of the things, the reasons why we're all on LinkedIn. You always want to be reaching out, and the reason why thought leadership is so powerful is that it enables you to stay top of mind with your connections for that next opportunity.
Yeah.
So you're always shining. You're always showing up with information that helps people be more successful. And as Jackie talked about in the very beginning, our mission is to make the world's professionals more productive and successful. Yeah. So your contributions here through your thought leadership add value to the overall experience for everyone.
Yeah, no, I love this section. And I read the most interesting stat a few weeks ago about LinkedIn where 9 billion professional searches are done on LinkedIn each year. 25% of those are for jobs, and 75% of those are for people and content.
That's right. Yeah.
Right? So this part is actually the meat of why you want to join a network, and it's in that's why we wanted to include it, really speak about it explicitly at this part of the presentation. And we'll go for another 15 minutes and leave some time for questions as well. So let's jump into how do you build a strong professional network. So, at each section we always talk about what's the point. Why am I doing this? It turns out that, according to a recent NPR story, 70 to 80% of jobs are not published, which sounds unbelievable. But, when I think about my own career, going to all those different companies, I think I've only really applied to 1 or 2 jobs in all of my career. Everything has been through relationships, through introductions, through, I just had a friend who, through a post that got read about marketing, is now a CMO of a startup. I mean, it just happens organically. And you can essentially replicate that on LinkedIn, and now you can replicate it on an amazing scale because we connect to over 500 million people. In the same article, it said that, ironically, 70 to 80% of jobs are not listed, but people spend 70 to 80% of their time combing through job listings to find that job instead of flipping it in terms of networking, right? That's where you should be spending your time. So that's one. And also building a win-win ecosystem of relationships is critical. I mean, I heard a quote from one of our executives here at LinkedIn that he always tries to over-index at being the most valuable person in his network by just always contributing, asking yourself, how can I add value to that person? But asking yourself, how can you add value from your highest self? Meaning that what do I do best that no one else does in my network, and how can I add value? So I have a specific example that just occurred like 30 minutes ago, right before this webinar, where I'm having lunch with somebody who heads campus recruiting, and someone walks by who is launching a whole video series, for college students giving advice. And I connected the two. They were very grateful to meet each other within the company. And, they're left with value, and you're left with, being known as somebody who brings value to every situation. So just, it can occur anywhere, but you want to be the person to unlock the knowledge assets in your network. So what that means is it's twofold. Being curious enough to find out about what your network is doing so that you're always who has what, who's doing what, right? So when something comes along, an opportunity, you can always connect them with somebody within their network or your network, because you're aware of what everyone's doing.
Right.
So being that person to create value is absolutely key, and being a connector is extremely powerful. I believe that if you create a win-win ecosystem, you will always be taken care of. There will always be that opportunity that will come into your job opportunity or next. We at LinkedIn we say next play, which is like the next assignment that you have, a career move. It will always be present for you because you always take so much time to be generous. So that's always a core belief that I live by. So here are the basics around staying connected and getting connected. So every time, I strongly believe this, never reach out to people when you need something. You always reach out
we
to
all
contacts.
make that. Yeah.
It's too late when you're looking for a job to always reach out because you're looking for a job. But always try to reach out at every stage of your career. That's why sharing updates are so important, status updates, sharing articles. LinkedIn has great reminders when their birthdays or promotions. Really take the time to say congratulations and reach out and connect with people. The other thing is, after every meeting or conference, this takes a bit of discipline, but, you have that stack of cards, just, either first thing in the next morning or at night when you head home, just take some time and just put them in LinkedIn and connect to the people you just met. And that's a great way to add context and relevance to that meeting. And if you do that right after you meet them, it sticks, and then you build that relationship. Ty, you want to jump in here?
Just a quick tip, because I know I'm going to see some of you at this National Black Conference. Download the LinkedIn app. Have the LinkedIn app on your phone, and that way, you can take the business card and you can connect with them directly on LinkedIn right there in that moment.
Yes, that's great. That's great. How many times you said you're going to follow up with somebody and it's like months later you find a card you can't remember who it is.
What was that about again?
Not good.
Yeah.
Not good. So those are some solid tips. And give and request recommendations. Recommendations. I see a question here. How important? It's extremely important. There's nothing that beats being validated by a peer or a superior or even. I think it's fantastic if you have somebody who you supervise who's recommended you, as a mentor, as a leader.
Right.
It's absolutely critical. Also, too, it's very fair to request recommendations, and you should definitely do that when you're not looking for a job. It's not just about job seeking. It's just about building a continuous pipeline of opportunity. And also, too, very important, join conversations, post and comments in groups that you've joined. That's a great way to get connected to other people and letting them know how you're thinking, what is top of mind, and all of that. So that's extremely critical. Anything else, Ty, you can think of here?
No, I think it's great. It's just about staying connected. And, I guess the only other thing I would add is share social content on LinkedIn's platform. So post articles that you've found helpful. That's a great way, and it's kind of a low effort way for you to keep in touch with your community and show them what you're thinking about.
Okay, great. And then I got a question here on taking recommendations from people that you may not know. Not recommendations, but in terms of connections. I would say yes. I would actually look at the person's LinkedIn profile, and it's even better when you're making a request of somebody you don't know. Write a link of why you're connecting to them. That's always really helpful to set context. I've personally accepted when people write why they're reaching out to me. And it's always even better if that person says, and you say, hey, this is how I've read your work. There's some connection with what I'm doing, and this is how we could, work together, or this is how I could help. So the next section I want to talk about is learning. And one thing that here, I wanted to pause before I jump into this section. We wanted to highlight it here because the world is changing so rapidly, for one. I saw an article in Forbes about 10 jobs that never existed 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So learning, it's no longer acceptable for you to, say, get a degree and not go back every year or be learning something every 6 months or even every day. Like, we have to do that now. We're in that age, right? So if I go back to that article, app developer didn't exist 10 years ago.
Right.
So the iPhone, according to this article, was launched in 2007. And now the average app developer can make up to, $90,000 a year. You have careers in cloud computing now that never existed. There's also something around millennial trend analyzer, somebody who does that. So the point is that life is changing way too fast not to be a continuous learner. So learning is a great way to demonstrate your commitment to your own personal growth. Somebody who's always learning is perceived as a great team member, and really conscientiously updating your technical and business skills every 6 months really helps you to stay current with evolving technologies and developments. And why it's also relevant to LinkedIn is that LinkedIn acquired Nbmbaa a few years ago, it's now called LinkedIn Learning, and it provides access to over 10,000 courses online to help you really keep up with what's changing in the environment. Lastly, on the learning and why it's relevant, I think it's very important that you learn the skills that you want to be known for. Skills that are in your industry are used to achieve greater currency. So be strategic about what you learn. Mm-hmm. If you go back in the presentation to the section before, tap your network. Your network is a great place for you to get what skills you need to learn next. Like in my network right now, there's lots, of course, there's study around diversity inclusion, certification. In fact, I'm personally taking something at Cornell right now, certification in, diversity and inclusion. But as far as in tech, I took classes in product development, product management, and also looking forward to learning how to code as well. So practicing what I preach here.
Very good.
So build, in developing your continuous learning plan, you first of all want to volunteer for projects that you're interested in line with your career vision. You want to seek advice from mentors, sponsors, people in your network to make sure that you're hitting the mark. Industries are changing way too rapidly for you to rely just on static sources. Really communicate with people, find out what's going on. Ask your boss for high visibility projects or one in your chosen field. And then also identify, what learning is needed to reach your desired goal. I referred to, LinkedIn Learning. We acquired Nbmbaa. It's really about scheduling time to pursue those courses online. You can do that here. There's many, many sources, of course. Here on this network, what's actually great is that you get personalized recommendations. So when I go into LinkedIn Learning, I see courses on product management. I see courses on negotiation skills, strategic development. So it's actually feeding me a lot of courses, which I literally can take in 2 minutes, 10 minutes, 1 hour, so literally schedule time. Like I read an article, and I thought this was really key, and this is on the site, of a woman who is a marketer who for 7 years, she scheduled 1 hour a week just to learn on lynda.com at the time. And she learned HTML and SQL among that. But every January, she would designate time to do a vision board and learn 2 professional skills and 2 personal skills. And through that process, she's literally gotten a few promotions, a few jobs, and actually co-created her career just doing that alone. And that's the kind of society that we're living in now, for an opportunity for you to really take charge. So that's why we wanted to do this presentation in such a holistic way to show you how you could, starting with what Ty was talking about, create your profile, create your brand image, but then also take it into your thought leadership, which is around creating your voice, right? And really letting the world know what you're standing for, and also creating the community that you want to be associated with. Then take that into actually building your community, and then to keep yourself always relevant, continue learning. So the key takeaways here, schedule time to invest in your brand, work on your profile, work on your learning, set aside time to write. The second is cultivate your passion, embrace your uniqueness. Like, what is your brand? Who do you stand for? Own your narrative, right? And lastly, build a network. Really conscientiously build a network of people, resources, and conversations that will support you in achieving what you want for your potential.
Yeah, I like that. I would say, pick 1 or 2 things you're going to do today. 1 or 2 things you're going to do next week to start building out and enhancing your LinkedIn profile. I always like to say also that you don't need permission from anyone to take a step into an area where you want to have thought leadership and showcase your expertise.
I love that.
And the world is really waiting for you to step into that space. So with that, we do have time for questions. We'll go to the chat. If you haven't chatted your question yet, go ahead and do that now. And Jackie and I are going to take a look and see what we have here. Okay. So one question we have is, how do you request for a connection to endorse you for a specific skill that you have identified? So one of the cool things about LinkedIn, the LinkedIn engine, is that once you put a new skill into your profile, it will actually present that skill to your network, and it will ask your network, does this person have this skill or not? Will you endorse them or not? So that's actually the key way for you to get started, is to actually seed the ground, I like to say, with the skills you want to be recognized for. And then LinkedIn, the engine, will take that skill and present it to your network for them to endorse you for that skill.
That's great.
Okay. All right. So we have a question from someone that's interested in 2 different industries, finance and project management. And the question is, how do I decide which one to select? So if I understand your question correctly, you are, again, like a multifaceted person, like all of us. We have multiple interests, and you're trying to decide which one do you load into the tool. So, I think this is, and Jackie, feel free to jump in here. My advice is to really think about and make a choice on where you want to show up. So, like I said earlier, I'm interested in multiple things too. I'm a marketer who also happens to write about social justice. Right now, my professional profile is mostly dedicated to marketing, but as a secondary focus, I write about social justice topics. So my advice would be to think about what's the primary space you want to be showing up in and found for, and then to also write and make sure you're adding things, maybe areas of organizations you're a member of, or content that you've done to showcase the other side of your passion as well. Do you have anything to add?
I love that. I think that it's a matter of really putting the best foot forward. So if you're really strong in finance and you have the most experience, really populating your profile around that, but also highlighting projects and project management, so that if you wanted to pivot, into more project management roles, you could do that. But you would definitely, and then also to take the time to do some testing about what are your best skills, what are your best aptitudes, like I like to say it, what's the highest expression of who you are, right? Like, where do you bring your special sauce, your secret sauce that no one else can touch?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Like, you really want to have a clear sense of what that is.
Okay. We have a question, what's the standard length of writing? What's too short and what's too long? So here again, your long-form posts don't have to be novels. But if you do want to write a long-form post that is closer to a novel, that's fine as well. It's up to you. You want to think about the types of the audience you're reaching and what's going to best connect with them. So I would say in answering that question, you want to think about who am I talking to? Do they have a lot of time? Are they someone, what are you writing about? Do you need more links to explain that? So there's not really a right or wrong answer here. It's more about what's going to resonate with your audience.
And you have short-form posts and long posts, right? So you have the short updates, which are just
Correct.
really, you see an article that you like, a couple quotes, you may just want to take a quote from that and repost it on the network and refer to the big point in the article that you want your network to know. So that's a short way of staying relevant and getting the word out, about what you're interested in.
Mm-hmm.
So then there's a long post. I personally like around 150 to 200 words and something really easy and scannable.
Mm-hmm.
That's my style.
Absolutely. Okay. So one question is looking for additional advice around those in the middle of a career transition. You mentioned indicating your industry. How do you add the industry or where you want to go? How much of your profile should indicate where you want to go without tipping off your current employer? So this is a really good question. And I would imagine that maybe some of you are going to National Black MBA Conference because you are looking for a new career opportunity. So this might be relevant to quite a few of you. One of the things you can do within your LinkedIn platform, which is helpful, is if you are interested in entertaining other opportunities, there's actually a switch you can toggle to let recruiters know that you're open to other career opportunities. So that's on the back end, and that's not something that your employer can see. The other part of this question is how do you indicate where you want to go without tipping off your employer? So many of us have other areas of passion. Many of us like to write about other things. One of the ways to get there is to start to share content about areas that you're otherwise interested in, but you're not going into your profile and changing your job title to interested in other career opportunities, but you are beginning to position yourself and share content that's not necessarily a direct tip off to your employer that you're looking for a new job. But obviously this is something you want to use your discretion at as well. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Jackie.
Just consistently publish in the areas that you want to get into. That's the easiest way I think of doing that, and also participating in groups related to the areas that you want to get into.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay. Balancing passive income activities, public speaking, writing, blogging, investing, and entrepreneurship with your 9-to-5 job. Do you want to start this one, Jackie?
Scheduling is the key here.
Yeah.
I would say, how do you balance it? I think, it's easier if your 9-to-5 job aligns with what you want to write about and speaking and doing that. Yeah. If it doesn't, it's really around using that discretionary time and going on LinkedIn and searching for people and using your network to get to the highest level of people in that field that you are trying to get into around speaking and writing. Mm-hmm. And also, too, just building relationships with them and developing credibility with them. I think accelerating, using that to accelerate your progress would be the way I would go about
absolutely.
Doing that.
Yes, building a schedule, make sure it gets done.
But then really seeking out people, mm-hmm. doing a strategic search on LinkedIn in terms of people who are doing the thing that you want to do.
Right. So another question around, a similar question around, is it the place to showcase your side hustle? In most cases I would say yes, but it also depends. Again, you want to use your discretion off your employer. What content are you sharing? And I think it's a great place to show the different sides of what you're passionate about.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
These are great questions.
These are awesome
so
questions.
So many questions coming through.
Yes, absolutely. Hold on, let me just get to the next one here. So a question about social networking and writing a blog post or comment. Filter your response appropriately and professionally for your network. Any advice on topics to stay away from on LinkedIn? So in my role in customer education, I've gotten this question from folks before. One of the things that's really interesting about LinkedIn is that people have a particular mindset when they're on LinkedIn. I'll give you a quick example. On Facebook and other social networks, for example, people are there to spend time, to stay connected with friends and family. Maybe they're reading about Beyonce's new twins. People are there spending time. Not to say that people aren't doing that on LinkedIn, but the LinkedIn audience is a little bit different in that there's a professional mindset. So people are on LinkedIn to invest time, which means they're looking for answers to questions. They're looking to connect. They're looking for that piece of information that's going to help them succeed. So as you think about topics you're writing about and commenting on, you want to keep in mind this professional mindset. The LinkedIn community also tends to moderate itself. Mm-hmm. So if there is a piece of content posted that's not appropriate, oftentimes you will see people actually chiming in and reporting it as well. Okay. All right, so another question is, this person has been a product manager in a certain industry for quite some time. So they want to cross over to do product management in another industry. How do they branch out? The skills are there, so how do they start to translate that?
Well, I mean, if the skills are there, the first thing is to put your skills on LinkedIn, right, in terms of identifying those skills so they're searchable. But also, too, I would quantify the work I've done and leverage my summary so that the skills, actually stating in your summary what you've done in your industry and really calling that out. Really quantifying it, really using the keywords in that industry in project management. Is it PM project management or program manager?
It might be program manager. Maybe I'm just assuming product manager, but apologies if PM stands for something else.
Basically, it's the same thing. It's really taking you some time out to quantify and describe what you've done in such a way that it can be picked up in another industry.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Okay, and somebody's wondering about the cost of Nbmbaa.com. So what you should do is actually check your LinkedIn profile. One of the great things now is that LinkedIn Learning is integrated into LinkedIn, which means that you can access courses and things that you can start learning right now.
There's some packages, I think in some cases the premium package is actually included, Linda. LinkedIn Learn is included. Mm-hmm. So it depends on the subscription, the access level that you have for LinkedIn. Mm-hmm. I know I went to the site a few days ago and I saw in some cases they were offering trial memberships as well. Mm-hmm. So periodically that's offered as well. So you could just go to LinkedIn Learning and access that.
Yeah, but it's right within LinkedIn now. Mm-hmm. I mean, the idea is that LinkedIn is really trying to make it easier, make us all more productive and successful. So it's about having all of those things at your fingertips. Okay. So, if folks are wanting to hang out, we can go a little bit over in terms of questions. Let's see. So another question we have here is, what would we consider great short post ideas as well as types of, I think we covered this to an extent. So what types of content would you stay away from versus what would you post on? So again, think about your audience. Mm-hmm. Think about things like newsjacking, trends, a lot of the things that we talked about a little bit earlier. Okay.
And to answer the question, was a project manager.
Oh, project, yes. Say a project manager.
Thank you.
Yes. So a question about deactivating your LinkedIn account until you finish your makeover and keep the contacts you've generated. I'm guessing by the fact that you're asking this question is that you don't want people to necessarily see updates that you're working on or changing your profile. There's actually a setting within LinkedIn that you can turn off updates. So as you make changes to your profile, your network's not getting constant notifications that you're adding jobs or details, and you don't want to keep spamming people with all of that. So I would say there's no need to deactivate your profile. Just turn off the updates while you're doing that, and that way you can, the notifications.
Yeah.
That way you can do that with peace of mind. Okay, so we'll do like 2 more questions before we wrap up here. One question is adding military experience valuable on your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, definitely. There's a huge military community on LinkedIn, and that's one of our focus areas as well. In fact, it's one of the largest, most active groups on LinkedIn, so I would definitely add it. And also take the time to distinguish what skills you've picked up in the military and add those as skills that you have.
Okay, great. And also thank you for your service as well.
Thank you, yes.
Okay.
Awesome.
Great. So that was the last question we'll take for today. If you're interested in learning more, definitely feel free to connect with both of us on LinkedIn.
I've received a few.
Thank you. And again, I have a blog post within my profile that covers everything we've covered today. Feel free to check that out. And also, good luck to all of you.
Yeah.
We hope to see you at the National Black MBA Conference in Philly.
Yes, hope to see you. And congratulations for being on the call. It's a pleasure. And I want to congratulate you for taking the first step and launching your new presence on LinkedIn.
All right, thank you, Ty and Jacqueline. On behalf of Nbmbaa, thanks for a great program. And to you, the audience, we thank you for your participation in today's event as well. This concludes today's program. Again, thank you, and have a great rest of the day.